Hey, what's up, guys? We have Tom Lemke here. He has a new metal podcast. What's going on, Tom? How you doing?
Hey, how you guys doing? Jordan,
Good.
Micah, how you guys doing?
Doing good, Tom. Nice to meet you, man.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh boy, I don't know where to start there. Um yeah, obviously I'm here because I'm kind of like branching out here. I've got the podcast called Breathing New Life with my co-host Jeremy. Um and we're just a couple of guys that grew up listening to new metal and loving it. And you know, we're a couple of online friends, and I reached out to him. It's like, hey, you want to start a podcast? Maybe. And then it's like, oh no, I'm too busy. And then 5 years later, we start a podcast anyways. But yeah, that's as far as it goes with Breathing New Life. Otherwise, pretty laid back, average person. I work in CNC, um, and oh, that's about it right now for my life going on right now. It's just pretty much a podcast and work and and going to school also. But otherwise, yeah, that's about it going on for me. Unless there's something more specific you guys like to know about me.
Did you say you're a rich person? Is that what I heard you say, or you're not
I
a rich
wish.
person?
No, not a rich person. I'm a laid back average person, really.
Yeah, you're just a
Um,
working
yeah,
class American like
yeah,
me and
working
Jordan.
class, blue collar job. Like I said, I go to college. Trying to get a kind of an associate's degree in mechanical design technology, which is kind of like a more basic engineering degree. But although I do have a CNC programmer diploma, I finished up school for that earlier this year. I started that back in 2020. It's kind of a little bit of interesting story there. I was going to go back to school starting in the spring semester of 2020, and I decided to hold off on it until I had a little bit more money, probably go in the fall, and then lo and behold, the pandemic happened, and a lot of that stuff, was shut down anyways. Lockdown, no, nobody was really going to classes anyways. So it's kind of like weird occurrence. But then all of a sudden, in like I think it was like late June of 2020, I get an email about from my college that I signed up for. It's like there's a program to have like the first like 4 classes of the CNC programmer diploma paid for through a scholarship from Metallica's All Within My Hands Foundation. So I end up getting to go to school, for those first 4 months for free, thanks to Metallica, basically. And the first 4 classes, I should say. It was about 4 or 5 months worth of classes, I should say. But yeah, those first 4 classes I took were paid for there. So I got an education thanks to Metallica there. Um,
Yeah.
but they from then on, I continued it was just like the first like 4 basic kind of like CNC certification classes. And but I went on to get a CNC programmer classes, which basically means I know how to program the machine to tell it how to make the parts I want it to make.
Mm.
Essentially, the very basic way of putting it for anybody who doesn't know anything about CNC or whatever, it's those machines where they take like parts that are usually like metal, and then they have a bunch of tools, cut it down to form it into whatever shape they need. If you look up, CNC videos on YouTube and whatever, you'll see it, and probably have seen something like that on like one of those old How It's Made type shows or anything like that. But that's a career field I'm in. Not really at the point where I want to be career wise right now, but I'm a lot better off than I was 2 years ago. So outside of the economy kind of still makes it kind of tough for someone like me, but I reached my goal of getting my CNC programmer diploma, which is why I wanted to, back in 2020, and then I am continuing my education as well. So
Yeah, let's get into the new metal talk. Sorry, are you?
right on.
I just changed my the tripod. Is it? Do you think it's better, Jordan? But it's more like eye level.
Yeah, it looks
Like
great. It looks perfect.
Right. It's like a
looks
little
looks fine.
tilted, but
Yeah.
Whatever. Not that big of a deal.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, as far as the new metal goes, are you in a band or anything, or how'd you get into new
No,
metal?
no. I never really got to dabble into music as much as I would have liked to. I was always trying when I was younger. It never seemed to be something where I ended up with with the kind of people that I wanted to make music with, I guess. Especially it was tougher when I was younger. I'm a pretty low key like person, and I'm really wasn't like, I don't know how to put this. I really wasn't into any like particular crowd, I guess. I was in kind of an outcast crowd. And I know also it was kind of tough because also as somebody who didn't really I didn't do drugs or drink or anything like that. I was pretty, laid back and everything like that. I wasn't into that kind of stuff. So it seemed like it was kind of like a different kind of social scene as far as those things go. Makes it a little bit difficult to kind of fit in with that when you're not into that yourself. Um, so never really bonded with anybody in musically like that. I've been working on stuff myself on and off over the decades, just doing that kind of stuff. But loved, you know, I've always loved music. It's obviously a huge part of my life to this day, and I still keep trying to dabble in it like solo wise. I'd like to try and do some more electronic music type stuff. Done a couple of things here and there in the past, but nothing I really feel like sharing now anymore. It's just me dabbling in it and just kind of taking loops and whatever, and just kind of composing a lot more like electronic type music back then and stuff. So that's kind of how music is for me as far as musician wise. But as a fan, I've had a lot more connection to it. Otherwise, I've used to work at a bar that my brother owned that was also a small like club venue type of deal, a couple hundred people capacity type of deal. Excuse me. And I got to know quite a few, bands going through there. A friend of mine, Justin, he was in a Milwaukee local band called Line Still. He's actually a guy that I used to work with when I was like a teenager. We used to work at a Pizza Hut together. And then years later, we ended up, reconnecting through his band playing a show at that bar that my brother once owned. And I got to know some other bands that came along through there, even when after my brother sold it. Well, he didn't really sell per se because he didn't really own the building, but building got sold and everything like that to a new owner and a new, I was gonna say, and it changed hands and whatnot. And even with that new owner, I got to still kind of be somewhat involved there and get to know some musicians and bands that came through there. I had some somewhat high profile bands going through there, like Soulfly. Got to play there once. The band, I think it was freaking Anvil came through there once. Il Nino played there. That's a pretty big band that I'm really big into as a new metal fan. And God, I'm trying to think. There's a band called a Canadian new metal band called Slaves on Dope that I grew up listening to that ended up playing there. It was really awesome to meet them through that. The industrial rock artist Common Christ, he came through. He's kind of a big deal. And it was kind of cool because I got to see him originally when he got opened up for Cold Chamber. So at the rave, and then they end up doing a smaller tour and they came through that club. So it's I had a lot of different connections through music, even especially as a non-musician, and getting to know a lot of the local music scene. Especially, I was very lucky to have gotten to make some of the friends I did when my brother owned that bar and whatnot.
Yeah, so let's get like into the music. So what new metal bands are you into now?
Like I still listen to a lot of the stuff that I grew up on. Like I still listen to like Deftones Around the Fur a lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like those things were that's a great album. Yeah, I know. Those are bands that those are a lot of older bands I kind of overplayed for myself. Like I listened to Korn, Limp Bizkit, the first Limp Bizkit album, Cold Chamber, Deftones. Those were like my four big ones when I was a teenager, and didn't really like listen to them as much like after high school. I listened to them here and there, but like kind of started getting more into the up and coming metalcore bands that were, Killswitch Engage and Shadows Fall, All That Remains, bands like that. So kind of left new metal for a while in a way. I mean, new metal died anyways, I guess. Anyway, like pretty much after 2001, new metal wasn't anywhere near as strong as it was. And, it kind of changed hands from new metal to metalcore taking over basically, right? But then, I don't know, I would say a little over 10 years ago, I just like came across some of the bands I used to listen to, like El Nino. And I think actually one of the bands that kind of kickstarted was I came across the band Flaw again, and went on like, I don't know what it was, like Pandora or Slacker or something like that, and made a radio of Flaw, and just started listening to all these old bands I used to love, Flaw, El Nino, Spine Shank, Endo, and so many different great older bands that I used to listen to, and some that I haven't really listened to hardly at all when they were around more and were more active in the new metal era. So it's kind of like I got to rediscover new metal from that era again also. And so it just kind of re-sparked this love I have for it, because I just love kind of the grooves and bounciness of a lot of the music that I listened to there. And it wasn't trying to be too hard or anything like that. It was just kind of just enjoyable and just fun to listen to that kind of music again. And about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago is when I first heard this band called New Era. And I'm like, oh shit, I love this band and everything like that. This is awesome. And I'm listening to it and all this stuff. I followed them. They were gonna try and they put up like an Indiegogo to do a second album, but that fell through. So I guess the band just kind of went their separate, the band members went their separate ways after that. And I'm on Facebook. I'm in one of the new metal groups, and somebody posts the video from one of New Era's music, from one of their songs and whatnot. And a guy that comments on it's like, oh yeah, I used to be a singer in this band, and I friended him. Well, that singer is Jeremy. Jeremy is the singer of a band that I really got into, who made new metal music in a era where new metal wasn't popular whatsoever. And so Jeremy and I, through Facebook, we just kind of hit it off and everything like that. And that led me to, like, about 5 or 6 years ago, I was like, hey dude, do you want to do a podcast, kind of discussing like new metal? Like, it's starting to do a resurgence about 5 years ago. I wanted to kind of get in on the ground floor and start a podcast about that, but unfortunately at the time he was too busy, and he ended up like starting another band, I guess, called Stark. And so I guess I kind of got in the way of his like how many extracurricular activities he could have. But then, like, earlier this year, he's like, hey, you remember when you messaged me about doing podcasts? Would you like to do that now? I'm like, yeah, sure, dude. I'd love to do a podcast with you. I think you and I would get along great for that. And honestly, it's been a good experience since then. Jeremy and I, we get along, we get to discuss things, and from talk about my background in music. Well, that led to those things and led to me and Jeremy starting a podcast. A guy that I just happened to be a fan of his band's music when they were together, and got to know him through online, through Facebook. And now we get together every once in a while and record an episode discussing new metal. And we try to feature new metal bands that are kind of new, or kind of more underground, lesser known, so that kind of show that people that new metal is not a dead genre. There's a good resurgence. There are definitely bands that have tried to still keep it alive, and that there's bands that we want to expose to more people however we can, just because we are fans of the genre. We believe in it. We want it to stay alive, and we want to showcase bands that are doing such things.
Yeah.
So Jordan, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, some of my funnest memories, some of the really good ones, we're going, like, they had Family Values tour. I remember when I was a kid, and and it went all the way. I don't know if you remember that, but it went all the way around the country, and it had like.
Are you talking about the very first one with Rammstein on it?
No, I didn't go to that one. I went to the one. It was Korn, Limp Bizkit. I think just Disturbed might have been there. And
There was one that was like, it was like Korn, Limp Bizkit, I think Linkin Park.
no, Rage
Might have
Against the
been on-
Machine, I think, was there too. No,
Really?
that was Battle for whatever. Battle for
Yeah, that was, I think that was a different one.
but no, that was such a great show. It was such a fun time going to that concert.
Yeah, I do have fond memories. I got to see the very first Family Values tour. It was the Korn, Rammstein, Limp Bizkit, Ice Cube, and I think Orgy was the opening band for that one. And the thing is that the Rammstein set for those shows were notorious because there was an act during Rammstein's set where they're pretty much mimicking like man-on-man sex, and then Lindemann, the singer, he's got a prosthetic penis that just starts shooting white, liquid all over the place, and they supposedly had to like basically wear an illegal bail to fight to even be able be allowed back in America to tour again or play again if they ever wanted to. They were going to be banned from America over that.
That's, I mean, it's just, if you want to call it art, whatever, but it's kind of like, you pay for the ticket,
The experience of the performance there.
You know what these guys are like, so
True.
What was it? Oh my god, I can't remember. It was come back to me. I'm trying to think of the name of this band. That was like, it was Slipknot. Remember,
Okay.
everyone was so freaked out by
yeah.
Slipknot, like,
And like Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
I have an interesting, I'm sorry, I was gonna say I have an interesting little experience with watching Slipknot one of the very first times. They were playing in Milwaukee. They were at the rave in Milwaukee. It's the one of the major venues in Milwaukee. It's got like three or four different stages, and they were in like the medium-sized stage of the venue. And I mean, which is not a very big stage for like 9 guys and all their get up and all that crap, But there was a part of the show where Clown, he's the guy that bangs on like beer kegs and stuff like that during the show. He takes one of the beer kegs and he like flips it on the side to the front of him, and he's got like the little hole in it or whatever. And so he's mimicking that he's like pretending that he's pulling out his dick and then like jerking off into the keg or whatever. And then he takes the keg and just throws it off the side of the stage. So that was like one of the craziest kind of like stories to share. One of my experiences that's kind of pretty vivid memory from watching the Slipknot show, a very early Slipknot show. So like their second album wasn't out yet.
It obviously made an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend who saw Rammstein somewhat recently, I think a couple months ago. So I guess they are able to come back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got to see them in Chicago. It was a great show, a huge show. Nothing really lewd there this time, but yeah, it's Rammstein's not like just like a band, they're like an experience, they're a performance experience. That's one of the great things about Rammstein there. I mean, it's just pyrotechnics everywhere, light show, acting, get ups, but at the same time you're hearing their fucking awesome music. So yeah. Rammstein's experience of this is like the second or third time I got to see Rammstein in my life, but if you get a chance to see Rammstein somehow, go out and do it. It's an experience. If you like the music at all, you got to try and see them. It's an experience.
Yeah, I would say I don't think me and Jordan, or at least me, aren't like super into new metal. There are some new metal bands that I like they're not new metal, but there's a new band called I'm like forgetting their name. Oh shit! And I can't even look at my phone because I guess I can use Google on my computer. But
this new band called Crazy Town.
Well, speaking of Turnstile, I can never remember stuff. You like Turnstile?
They're all right. They're not completely my thing. I don't think they're bad. They're really quite what was I gonna say? They're really quite getting to be a more well-known band now. I could definitely say that.
Yeah, I'm
So
more
big.
into that stuff. And like, so me and Jordan both were in bands. One of the guys I was in a band with is in a metal band now called Bleed the Sky. Have you heard of Bleed the Sky by any chance?
Oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
wow. He's gonna be happy about
Who the
that.
shit? This guy.
They're
They
doing
used to be in a band called like was somebody in a band called Blood Simple? Um, is that what I'm thinking of?
I know
Maybe
that
not.
the drummer is
I know Bleed
in
the Sky, but I swear there were members of that band that were in a new metal band that I know of.
I
I
know the
could be
drummer
wrong,
is
but
in the drummer also plays, I want to say, with like Devil Driver or something like that. Have you heard of Devil Driver?
well, yeah, that's because the singer of Devil Driver is the singer of Cold Chamber. Yes, that's the same singer. So that's pretty awesome.
Is that what you were thinking of then? Or no?
Maybe that's it. I don't remember, but yeah, I thought Bleed the Sky had somebody in Bleed the Sky was in a new metal band I used to listen to also. I could be mixing it up, but yeah, I
Yeah,
do
if
know
you
Bleed the
want, you
Sky.
can, if you're able to look it up, you can see that I want to say they're coming out with a new album or something. They got a new singer a little while ago, then they kicked him out. But I actually took pictures of them like during their last tour. I saw them in yeah, I was gonna say, Jordan, did you go? But you didn't go. It was in LA. I saw him at the Whiskey. And so anyways, I was in a band with that guy, and we started like we went through a bunch of different phases. Like we were like you know, we started off like punk and then ska and then emo and then like screamo. And then they eventually just went like full on hardcore.
Mhm.
And that was pretty much like when I left the band. Like they pretty much kicked me out because they went like just straight like death metal. Like I don't know if you even knew that, Jordan.
Of course I knew that. Remember,
You
like
knew-
I
you knew
remember.
they kicked me out.
No. I just knew that they went hard metal, and I figured I didn't know if that was your style really, but
Yeah, it just wasn't my style, so it wasn't like really I was bummed out, but
I missed that song you guys had. Like Wayne wrote it with, I think, you probably, or I don't know who else had input to it, but it was this like song that it was kind of poppy, and it was like it was like really high.
yeah,
Like
that was more when we were like
pop punk.
I don't even pop punk, I guess.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that wasn't straight pop. I know what you're talking about.
What was your
like
band called again?
Well, we had a bunch of different names. Like we had
What was the one I would have known?
well, we ended up being like behind the scene. Before that, it was like New Direction. I think when you came out to that recording studio, it was like New Direction, and then New Direction, not New Direction. And then it turned into like behind the scene.
I think
and
that's
then it
when
went
I
to
knew.
and then it went to Ender.
That's when I think I saw you last
But
time.
yeah, anyways, my point is that we were more like I said, they eventually went pretty hard, like, but I was more and Jordan too, I think, was more into like Finch, Glassjaw, like you said, Deftones. Are you into those bands? Like
I know Glassjaw, Finch. I think I know of Finch because I remember like I was listening to your episode with that Scott guy, like where you guys talk about like pop punk and emo and stuff like that. You guys are mentioning some bands, and like
that pretty much explains what I'm into that whole episode.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing that like kind of like sucks for me, I guess, in a way. Like I went from like new metal to like metalcore and melodic death metal, got into bands like In Flames and obviously like Killswitch Engage and stuff like that. And but you guys are talking about some emo stuff. Like the only like real kind of emo band that I was like any kind of real fan of was like Hawthorne Heights. I liked their first two albums.
Yeah.
But I stuck mainly on the metalcore side, outside of like I listened to electronic music and stuff like that. Like I did get into like things like dubstep and hardstyle and stuff like that. Like electronic music's kind of like my if it's not like rock based, it's gonna be electronic based. Like that's like the only kind of two kind of styles of music I in a more general sense that I listen to.
Yeah.
So
if you get a chance, check out Bleed the Sky if you're able to do it now. Just I am curious to see if it is them that you know, but
yeah, I have to look up if they have like
it's not a big deal if you can't do it now, but I would definitely
I'm just trying not to like Wayne Miller, he is on my friends list. He is on my friends list. That's how I know
this
guy for sure.
He is the guy.
Awesome. I follow him on Facebook.
Yes. So I'm happy about that. I'm definitely gonna tell him that. And it's like maybe Jordan, we want to eventually get like a song in here. So we could definitely use like a Bleed the Sky song. I talked to another guy on here who was doing like ambient music that we can use. He said that too. So but yeah, so Bleed the Sky. I mean, to be honest, just to be honest with you, Tom, like most of that music, you know, I feel like we were definitely on other sides of the path, you know what I mean? Other sides of the road. Like emo kids, I don't think we're really getting along with like new metal kids. I mean, not like literally not getting along, but like, you know what I mean? Like there was definitely a separation. But then there was, like I said, there was a little period where like and I don't know if you're into hardcore, but like hardcore got big in like, I guess like mid 2000s. That would have been like, it was like bands like Bleeding Through and like, you know what I'm talking about? Like those hard,
I know some of those bands too.
Yeah, Bleeding Through and I'm trying to think of some other ones, like maybe Avenged Sevenfold type. I had some friends who were in bands.
You know, more metallic hardcore side, but I'm a huge fan of Hatebreed. I actually have Hatebreed tattooed on my back, like not just a logo, but like I have lyrics tattooed on my back also.
Yeah.
Well, you know, to talk a little bit more.
This guy toured with Hatebreed too.
Cool.
So yeah,
awesome.
If only I could bring him on here to talk. He'd know more about it than me.
Well, to talk a little bit more deeply about, you know, what music means to me. I had kind of a crappy upbringing, and I was somebody who, like I said, you know, I didn't really fit in any crowd. I was, you know, bullied, harassed, dealt with a lot of crap like that, people being shitty to me and everything like that growing up. And if I didn't have a band like Korn in my life, I don't know where it'd be. I don't even know if I'd be, you know, sitting here talking to you guys. Like I possibly could have off myself at some point if I didn't have something like that to kind of anchor me to life. And that's part of the reason why new metal means so much to me, because music, you know, means so much to me. It's not just like I'm such a huge fan. It had such a huge impact in my life to this day. Yeah. And it is something that kind of, you know, helped me hold on, you know, but like, you know, Korn did that for me back in the mid to late 90s. And then like, as I got older, you know, and things were still tough for me, like Hatebreed had a lot of really motivational music in a very, you know, heavy sense. And I latched on to that because like Live for This, those are the lyrics I have on my back. Live for This by Hatebreed is, you know, one of the songs that really helped me like cope with the tough times I was going through at that point in my life. And, you know, I've become a lot bigger on mental health and everything like that since then. And new metal lost one of their greatest icons of the, you know, this generation of music kind of period. And, you know, just Chester Bennington committing suicide.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So
I was so upset. I didn't see them before, and I'm so upset that he passed, but also that like you missed it. Yeah, I missed it. Right.
Yeah, I was talking with one guy, or I think it was you, Jordan. I was gonna say I was talking to somebody on the pod. Was it you that like? Oh no, it was the other guy we were talking to. He literally had tickets to go to the show. That Ranger guy, right? I think he had tickets to go to the show, and then he found out that he died. Yeah, that he killed himself, and it was just like he like didn't even believe it. But yeah,
I know. But like, music's I have such a deep connection there for my, you know, mentally and everything like that, and kind of spiritually or whatnot. It's kind of like more of my religion than anything, you know, else out there.
And
it's funny. It's funny because
did you follow the Brian Welch story?
Yeah. What he went through. He's one of the guitarists from Korn, and his like his path from going through Korn, leaving Korn, and finding himself, and finding, you know, religion, his own sense. He says he never really found religion. He found Christ. Yeah. He, you know, became a follower of Christ again. And he doesn't I guess take to any particular teaching of Christ, I guess, if you want to say, like any kind of church or anything like that, any denomination or anything like that, very non-denominational sense of that. And like, it's kind of funny, like he actually has a song called, he's kind of anti-religious, even though he's a follower of Christ type of deal. He doesn't kind of like, or like, doesn't, he's not a fan of organized religion, I guess. He actually has a song called Die Religion Die. So, but he is very, Christ, you know, whatever we want to say, follower of Christ and whatnot.
Yeah.
And he's probably got the most, like, he's really level headed about it at the same time. And that's really cool. He didn't become a devout, uh, judgmental Christian or anything like that. He loves his fans of all different creeds and all different orientations and whatnot. He is very, he's like I said, he's very level headed about it. But
Yeah.
what he
Yeah.
went through from going through going through um live touring with Korn and everything, going through all the troubles and trials and tribulations that band had, and he basically wanted to clean himself up so that you know he could be there more for his daughter,
Mhm.
and then to go through everything he went through, reform himself, and be a successful enough musician outside of Korn, and then to be able to bond again with his what he calls his brothers in Korn. He never had any true ill will towards them.
Yeah.
He had a book, and his first book, like he wrote a book and put it out there. And the thing is that Korn thought that he wrote a book like just trashing the band and all of the experiences and the other members of Korn and whatnot, but it wasn't like that at all. Like, and it's kind of like sucks because Korn wrote and recorded 2 songs bashing him for doing such a thing, but he's like, no, it's not like that. And he sent them a copy of the book, like, you can read through this and see it. Like, there's nothing here I put down that would be considered bashing you guys whatsoever. So, but and then for him to still forgive them for doing that and moving forward and rejoining the band and Korn being still as big as they are these days. That's that's a great, kind of redemption story, if you want to call it that,
Yeah.
a great path through life. It's something quite, it's not something you hear everybody be able to pull off, but I
Yeah.
mean, what do you have out there? I mean, you have people like, Robert Downey Jr., who went through crap and then was at his lowest point, and now he's one of the most recognized and respected, actors now.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad bought me I forgot that his name was that, but my dad bought me like his book, that guy's book. What's
Yeah.
his name again? Robert Welch?
Brian Head Welch.
Brian Head Welch. Yeah, he bought me the book. I haven't read it, but yeah. But yeah, it's crazy how you said that, a band like Korn like saved their life. It's funny because I think a lot of parents back then were like, oh, Korn is so bad for the kids or whatever, and it's going to teach them to get into drugs or whatever it is. But like in reality, it was probably like they were probably like really saving lives like yours, because a lot of kids at that age, and even at our age now, like just don't have much that's like all they look forward to, maybe, is like music and bands. It's like the only thing they look up to at the time,
I think that's one of the great things about music is the connection that people can have with it, and what it can do for somebody, how it can change their lives and everything.
Yeah.
And like, it was kind of funny because there's so much music out there that's like about things like bad relationships and crap like that, and it's all about drugs and partying and all that stuff. But new metal had a lot of more content, more topical for like people's personal struggles, and especially like crappy family life or whatnot. And that's part of the big reason why I truly, connected and bonded with that kind of music. And it's, it really, yeah, it really, it really kept me from, excuse me. Oh my God, that's good. Yeah, I have to like cut that out there. But yeah, it really kept me from kind of going off the edge, I guess, in a weird way. And it's very difficult to put into words, and kind of like, I don't want to like go on too much about my own personal life growing up or anything like that. It's just, if I didn't have that at the time, it would have been so much more difficult to get through life if I could get through life at that point. And I'm glad that this music was there for people like me. And I hope that there's more music out there for other people like that. And that, you know, if it's a one thing that keeps somebody from, taking their own life or falling into drugs or something like that, it's
Mhm.
great. I'm glad it's there, and I am fortunate that my parents didn't really like censor me from these things. And a lot of this music I actually like got into because of my older brother. He listened to this stuff a lot, before I could or whatever. I mean, he was older, he had, job and he could go out and buy his own CDs and whatnot. I was younger, I didn't have my own money for that kind of stuff or anything like that. So
Right.
I would end up borrowing his CDs a lot and listening to that music until I got to a point where I could buy my own stuff. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But yeah, to kind of like listen to that first Corn CD, and there's songs about getting picked on, getting harassed, and you're sitting there picking on me, but you're the shitty person instead, type of deal. That a lot of that content of that first Corn album was about. That's something that helped me kind of cope and know that there was somebody else that had to
Yeah.
deal with bullshit like that in their life too. I mean, he had a pretty fucked up life. Him, like Jonathan Davis, the Sam Corn, he had a pretty fucked up life and upbringing and whatnot. And to the point that, yeah, they were on drugs. I mean, they were known for literally smoking meth during the recording of that first album. And then all the stories you've heard about them, like in their drugs and their lifestyles throughout the years, to the point now that pretty much everybody's, just sober, and they're facing life, after facing and battling those, demons and all that stuff over the years. But so it's kind of funny there, but that they unfortunately still did kind of have to turn to those things, but to still get an opportunity to express and talk about those kind of topics that not a whole lot of music beforehand really touched upon. I mean, there were, topics and whatnot, the alt rock era and whatnot, but I don't put this. There wasn't quite the same topics. It wasn't quite the same things that people were talking about in the early 90s versus what kind of came out of the mid 90s and beyond. It was a lot more topics regarding personal life and home life and things like abuse, sexual abuse, and harassment, bullying, all that stuff kind of came out a lot more in the lyrical content of that music of that era.
Right.
Like before
And I think
before the mid 90s.
I would say, I mean, growing up, I don't remember too many bands that were like that. And there was a lot of bands that were probably a little bit more social and political and whatnot. I mean, like Rage Against the Machine was a big
Rage,
one, obviously a
yeah.
huge politically minded band.
Or
I
like
think that was important.
Nirvana. I feel like Kurt Cobain kind of talked about probably that kind of stuff, like obviously
Yeah,
like being depressed or whatever.
Yeah, true. And I'm not saying it wasn't there at all.
I wasn't disagreeing with you, but yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't as it part of the thing was like Korn's music was topical and accessible at the same time. It wasn't too extreme. And it was something that a lot of people could relate to. That's a big thing. Actually, that's probably the best way I should have put it. Probably the way I should have put it earlier is just it was very relevant music for a lot of people to their personal lives.
Yeah.
It wasn't just somebody, talking about, their fucked up extreme life, that was like on more extreme type of thing. This was a lot more relevant to a lot more people's life that they were, that other people were going through it. And it wasn't something that I don't think was as much of, how do I put this? Much as of a blunt topic in music content wise before that. I mean,
Yeah.
I was young. I could be wrong. I understand there probably are good examples of such a thing, but I just think that Korn kind of brought it a lot more to the forefront than what was really being explored or discussed beforehand.
Yeah. In terms of that, in terms of like the depression or angst or whatever thing, do you know much insight into the Chester Bennington thing, like why he committed suicide? Like, I mean, I kind of
Well,
think I know, but
there's many different discussions regarding that. He, if I do remember, he did have to deal with abuse growing up himself. He did have, drug issues and all that stuff when he was younger. I could be wrong, but that's what I remember reading up on. But he was a uh, pretty straight and narrow person when Lincoln Park started getting bigger and everything like that. He felt like had a more stable thing, but he was a huge Chris Cornell fan, and um, Chris Cornell's suicide was heavily impacted him, and Chester Bennington committed suicide on Chris Cornell's birthday.
oh wow, I didn't know
And
that.
yeah, I it's it's believed that maybe something about knowing that somebody that he looked up to, then I got to become friends with thanks to being in Lincoln Park, that it's something that possibly triggered him to kind of go over the edge, knowing that somebody he became good friends with, that he looked up to, was not no longer on earth, and just something that reminded him about that. And yeah, possibly, push him over the edge there. It's at least one of the more prevalent beliefs on why Chester Pennington took his life that day. It's difficult to say. I don't know. Knowing what I've kind of dealt with in my own levels of depression and anxiety, you just never know day to day what you're going to feel, how you're going to feel, how you're going to see life, what kind of thoughts you're going to have, how hard those thoughts are going to hit you. You could be good for a day. Like that's the thing that sucks about why people don't understand about when somebody has like depression and anxiety and stuff like that, that yeah, you could seem like you're perfectly normal and happy and go lucky one day, but the next day your thoughts just come to you and it takes over. It becomes too overwhelming. That's the anxiety part of it. And it could have just pushed him over the edge somehow, just being reminded of Chris Cornell on his birthday. It had a huge impact on him. I know that. And it was within a year basically from Chris Cornell's death as well. So yeah, it just must have, it probably pushed him over the edge. That's all I can kind of guess, just knowing what somebody who has to fight depression and anxiety has to go through mentally. And it could just been the thing that, made him follow through with it.
Yeah. I know there's like some conspiracy theories that that obviously I don't believe in, but like that both him and
Him and Chris Cornell.
yeah,
I
exactly.
understand. I know what you're talking about.
That him and
So,
Chris Cornell knew about some sort of like child molestation ring going on, and they pretty much were like offed or something. I mean, obviously I don't buy into it, but
there's theories that Chris Cornell was suicided, was killed off because of his knowledge of such activities or whatever going on basically within, other prominent members of the music industry. I don't know how much I buy into that stuff. I don't know what was going on with Chris Cornell at the time. Honestly, one way or another. I don't know how much I would buy into it though. It's definitely one of those things where obviously it's got just enough, the belief in it is grounded just enough that it could be possible that there's some conspiracy involving it. I don't know. Like I said, I just don't know how much I buy into it. Just because, especially knowing what I don't know that if how do I put this? It could be, if Chris Cornell was taken out like that, and I don't know, I don't know that Chester Bennington would have been a victim of that, or if he is just was that, or if that was one of the factors, that was one of the things going through his mind, knowing that that's why Chris Cornell could have died or whatever, and that's why he offed himself. He committed suicide himself. Um, God, I don't know. I don't think too much of it. I don't buy into it too much. Like I said, my thing is kind of probably more of just that people don't understand how. So there's a lot of people that don't understand how the mind works when you have depression and anxiety and you have these overwhelming thoughts. And I really think it's just one of those times where all of a sudden it just overtook him. I mean, look at the recent suicide of Jason David Frank. You know, the Green Power Ranger and all that stuff. He committed suicide a few weeks ago.
Oh,
And
I think I don't even know if I knew about that.
no, yeah. So the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the guy he played Tommy Oliver on the original my Power Rangers. He was originally the Green Ranger, then the White Ranger, and then he had like 3 other roles after that.
Yep.
But
Yep, I remember.
and the thing is that he didn't have as many warning signs with his depression he was going through. He was going through a lot of crap, personally. He was his estranged wife was, filing for divorce and was going to take him for almost everything and everything like that. But allegedly, she says that they were trying to reconcile their relationship and all that stuff. But Jason David Frank, he did try to reach out, to some people. He was texting some people. He's like, I guess he was just basically telling them he didn't know if he could do it anymore, and nobody got to him in time, unfortunately. And I don't know exactly how he committed suicide. I don't know if there are details that have come out regarding that, but yeah, he committed suicide after everything that he was going through. And you wouldn't know that because he was big on putting on a strong face for everybody else, because he was a very motivational person too. He was big on everybody else, trying to find the best in themselves and everything like that. I mean, he was a martial artist. That's a huge mentality you have when you're a martial artist. But yeah, it's just, you just don't know what it is that puts somebody over the edge to commit suicide there. They could be perfectly fine one day, then the next it's I don't know. They just can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, it's a very sad thing. But yeah, like I said before, I haven't really been super into new metal, but I recently, I knew this before, but I recently, this was probably, I guess, like a year or 2 ago now, where Lemcke came back and played some festival last year, like Lollapalooza, I think it was, and I was like, man, they really are pretty good live. Like, I'm not a huge Lemcke fan, but I do like some of their songs. But like, especially the guitarist, how he gets all dressed up.
Oh yeah,
even Fred Durst, like, I kind of liked his stage presence too. So I mean, a lot of those bands, Korn too, like, really do have good live shows. Yeah.
I like the remake, or I like the mix that they did with. It's so hard to find. I used to have on MP3 somewhere this file, and it was crystal clear, at the time. Now it's like they have like recordings of it on YouTube or whatever. But it's Jonathan Davis. It's Linkin Park, and then I think also 50 or Jay-Z. It's like it's a mashup, but it was like recorded on. It was like a bonus track on the album of whatever that 99 Cent and Linkin Park, they did those songs. But I forget, it's I'm About to Break, and like he does like the bridge, and it's like when you probably haven't even heard, maybe you have heard it if you're a pretty big fan of Korn, but It's so cool. He does this the bridge of the song, and then he's like, it's fucking boring, and like he's like yelling that like in the song, and he just screams like, and then Chester comes back in, dude. No, I'm sorry. It was like that song
No,
hit
I'm not
me,
laughing
like
at you.
perfectly. I was like, the three of them, those groups could not have done anything better. Maybe it was just Linkin Park and Jonathan Davis, but it was pretty rad.
It was Linkin Park,
I'm about
Korn,
to break, I think.
Linkin Park, Korn, and Jay-Z.
I think Jay-Z was in it too.
Well, I know
So-
Jay-Z did a whole album with Linkin Park, right?
Yeah, Jay-Z and Linkin Park did a mashup album together. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't remember Jonathan Davis being a part of that at all, but I could be wrong.
He did it. He
That's-
just did. It's One Step Closer, I think,
Hmm.
featuring Jonathan Davis. Yeah,
Do you have it?
I'm looking for
Ugh.
it.
If you can find it, maybe we can bring it up. But
And it's a live. It's the one that you can see here is live. But let me find. You guys talk for a second. I'm just gonna-
yeah, in terms of the current state of like new metal, would you say that it's still like alive and well, or is it kind of like, are you
It's-
still
it's
most
in a
listening to
resu-
bands from a while ago?
I think for the last 5 years or so, it's been in a growing resurgence. There's been a lot of bands that have started to resurrect that sound and definitely taking a lot of those notes from the first round of new metal and bringing up and starting their own thing. There's bands that are kind of like metalcore and new metal together. That's kind of one of the more, I guess I would say, prevalent sounds, but there's definitely bands that are more new metal traditionally, I guess. Like there's bands that we featured on the podcast. The very first one I found was a band called Revoid, which was a band from Russia, but they've broken up. I have actually contacted the drummer of that band, who's like one of the main songwriters of that band, and he was talking to me about that. And he was trying to get a new project going and everything like that, because a lot of the old members of that band had to go their separate ways due to just life and everything like that. And a lot of the crap that's going on in Russia too has made things more difficult. What was I gonna say? One of the bands that we've talked about that's actually kind of gotten quite a bit of a buzz in the new metal scene, the current new metal scene, is a band called .bhp. They're a band out of Poland, and they've got that kind of new metal with the turntables thing. Hey, dog, stop that. They've got new metal they got turntables, and they've got a female singer who does a whole different range of things. And you, sorry about that. My dog found a soda bottle to chew up. And they've got a female singer with decent range and everything like that. She does all different styles. She's done some rap type styles. She's got like this kind of voice that's a lot more like kind of a post grunge alt rock style voice, and she actually has extended her range to do more scream type vocals in their songs as well. They're a big one. Trying to think of some of the other more current ones. A lot of people talk about bands like Tala and Tetrarch. Those aren't bands I'm not as big into personally. I've never really connected with those bands. But if you listen to anybody talking about new metal in the current state, those are going to be two bands that people are gonna bring up.
What about like
one of the bands
Polyphia? Have you heard of Polyphia?
Yeah, Polyphia, aren't they more of a like a kind of a? They used to be more gent style, I think, and aren't they more kind of like a progressive, like more of a progressive metal style?
Yeah, are you into stuff like that too, or is it mainly just? Well, you mentioned Metallica, right? So you are into like just straight metal too, right?
Well, I mean, I grew up listening to all different kinds of stuff. So my background musically as a fan is all over the place. I grew up listening to, I don't know, Michael Jackson and Poison, and I grew up listening to so much crap that was popular on MTV. The early 90s were, obviously a big deal. Bands like Bush and God, who else can I even think of off the top of my head there when it comes to that? I was like, it's kind of weird because it's kind of top in my memory from that era of my life is kind of fuzzy to think of anything that's like outside of any popular bands. And I mean, I guess I could say Pearl Jam. Obviously, like Nirvana, like I think Nirvana's Nevermind and their Unplugged CD were like my first two CDs I ever owned in my life. Um, so like I grew up like through all those different kinds of eras of like hair metal, grunge, into the new metal, the metalcore, and melodic death metal, new wave of American heavy metal type stuff. And through the emo and post hardcore type stuff. But like I said, I kind of just gravitated back to new metal because it was a style of music that just I really enjoyed. I guess there's no other simpler way for me to put it. There's so many different bands that of that new metal era that I just loved, and the bands that I missed out on. But like this band Reveille, which I realize now, it's kind of funny. You mentioned the band Bleed the Sky, and Reveille, they had an album called Bleed the Sky.
Yeah, they did.
So
Oh, did you know that,
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yeah, I knew that.
Oh, okay.
okay,
Yeah.
When I first saw the shirt, I thought I was thinking Chevelle. Do you remember the band Chevelle?
oh yeah. Chevelle's
you
band,
into-
yeah.
Are you into that band at all? Those types?
I listen to them, but not particularly. Like I don't have any of their albums, but like I mean, they're on the radio, whatever. Yeah, I'll listen to them.
Yeah.
I seen them live at in Milwaukee. We have a thing called Summerfest, and it was just like a huge outdoor live festival that like goes on like for like 10 days. It used to go on for like 10 days. Now because of COVID, they like reduced it down to like 2 weekends worth of music, and that's it. It used to go for like 11 days straight, but they've had to tone that down a bit. But I've seen Chevelle at Summerfest before. Yeah, just
What about Insane Clown Posse? Would you say that that's part of the same group that you listen to, or the new metal group?
yeah, I would say no, but
No, yeah.
I can definitely see Insane Clown Posse was like right around the same time as new metal coming up. And I did listen to Insane Clown Posse. I like their great Lemcke album. They had a associated group called Twisted, and I like listening to them too. And they had some kind of new metal style songs. It is kind of funny because Insane Clown Posse does do things that they have certain sounds in some of their songs that is kind of new metal. They do incorporate, guitars and drums, more of a traditional type of rock band type sound in some of their songs, but they're kind of more of just that horrorcore, horror rap kind of stuff. Not really too much of what I consider part of new metal for any reason. But I think there is some overlap though. Definitely some
Like
overlap.
don't they play some of the same shows? Like won't they be on the same bill with like Korn and Limp Bizkit and stuff sometimes?
Funny thing
Or
is,
is that
last
just
time
a
I
whole
saw,
nother thing?
well, there are people who are fans of Insane Clown Posse that are fans of new metal bands like Head PE. Head PE's got a huge overlap of fans between those two crowds. And if you're a fan of like a rapper like Tech-9, who's also known for being a rapper who is not afraid to cross over into rock territory. He's had Corey Taylor on a song with him before. He's done a song, I believe, with Five Finger Death Punch before. I can't remember. I think he did a song with Five Finger Death Punch. But there's like that kind of crossover with the Tech-9 fan base, Insane Clown fan base. Though some of those people that listen to Insane Clown Posse also listen to Head PE and some other new metal bands like that. But I can't think of anybody too much on, like, it's not something I'm too familiar with. I'm not too into that crowd, so I don't really know too much about that scene or anything like that.
Yeah. And then you mentioned your co-host. Did you say he was also in a band? What band?
Yeah,
was
he was in
in
a few bands. I don't remember him telling me exactly when, but he was in a band called Unsaid. He was a vocalist there. So Jeremy's a vocalist. And Jeremy didn't do too much when he was younger, he said. I think he told me when he was he didn't do much until he was like old enough to drink, and he was at a bar doing karaoke, and somebody just thought, it's like, hey, you got a great voice. You want to sing for a band? He's like, yes, I would love to do that. Basically, is how he explained it to me. And he was in a band called Unsaid. And then he ended up moving out. He was from Colorado. He ended up moving out to Florida, and he ended up joining or starting a band that was the band called New Era, and that was the band that I, was a real big fan of. Finding that band, and then finding out about him being in that band years later. But New Era had broken up, I don't know, somewhere around 2012 or something like that. They started off probably in like 2009 or so, broke up in 2012. And so he was on a bit of a hiatus musically. And then he ended up starting or becoming a part of a band that was forming. The band was called Stark. And Stark had some really good music, but he couldn't commit to it anymore or something like that. I mean, Jeremy's a family man. He's got 2 kids. He's got a career and whatnot. He doesn't seem to really need to do those things, but it is kind of depressing that he doesn't, still sing, because he's got a great voice. I think he's got a great voice. I think it just fits. It's one of those things where I'm such a fan of him, and I could actually do a podcast with him. It's awesome to me, but to also get along with this guy and have such, similar interests, and just have fun chatting with him about one of our favorite topics. So yeah, he's been in a few bands, and one of his friends that he was in the band with in Stark is also guitarist for a band called No Self. And No Self is a band that I found out about 10 years ago. I didn't know that they had any, connection whatsoever. He was in a band with his friend Justin is in No Self, and No Self is a great like current new metal band. They're still together. They're still doing stuff. They're working on new music and whatnot. Definitely, anybody should go out and check them out. They got like song called Signal Flares. That's a great song to check out. And Justin was also the one who made the music for made our intro music for our podcast too. So that's pretty awesome there.
Yeah. So probably gonna wrap things up here because it's been an hour fine. And we're trying to keep it to an hour.
That's all
but
good.
As far as your so we'll just go over like your podcast. As far as your podcast goes, like how long have you guys been doing it for? You guys do it virtually, right?
Yeah, we do it remotely.
Or remotely,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeremy's in Florida. I'm in Wisconsin, obviously. So it's
yeah.
And Jeremy and I haven't had the opportunity to even meet face to face, but like I said, we built a good friendship just through interacting online on Facebook and whatnot. And I gained to talk to him and stuff like that through doing the podcast. And so, like I said, it's a podcast where I had an idea to do that with him many years ago. And for him to remember that I contacted him regarding that, and he's like, oh, hey, you want to do this again? It's like, dude, I would love to. I think you're probably one of the best people I could do this with. If people listen to us, they know how well we get along together and how much we're into this stuff. And so it just ended up, we started getting our shit together. We were originally starting to do it like every week, but it was very difficult to keep up with that, because for me to for me to take the recording and do all the editing and all that stuff that I want for however long we're recording, it takes me about 4 times longer to do the editing properly. And everything like that. So it takes like almost a whole day out of your life to just do that editing for one thing like that. So doing that week in and week out was kind of tough. And like I said, I work full time. I go to school. It's a rather demanding thing, but like,
yeah.
And like, I've been like kind of delayed on some of the releases. I've been kind of upset with myself like that. I lost one of our episodes, unfortunately, that we recorded, but so we're like kind of missing an episode in our episode list right now. I don't know. We just decided to kind of just get together and start picking out topics and start talking about new metal. We did a lot of episodes on new metal that wasn't from America. We talked about bands from Canada, from Europe. We were supposed to do an Asian episode because I actually know somebody who is in a band with one of the biggest new metal acts in Asia, and I wanted to do an interview with him and then talk about like new metal bands from Asia. But I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just I get an opportunity to do a podcast with somebody that I am how do I put this? I have that connection for one of the topics that I'm biggest into, and he's into it also. You listen to us, you can see how what kind of passion we have for this music, and for us to get together and just basically be a couple of guys and just sit there and chat and shoot the shit about a certain topic we decide to discuss. You know, we're not like super critical of things. I mean, I may be a little bit more critical than he is, but we're not like super critical. We're not here to like shit on anything, even if we don't like it or whatnot. But we just sit down and have a good time talking about these things. And then we share like new music with each other, which obviously as fans of the genre, it's a big deal for us to be able to share music with each other, and also hopefully share it out to the whatever dozens of people that might listen to us.
Yeah. Are you guys looking to like do it full time, make money, or are you just doing it for fun?
I mean, neither of us need it to be something where we'd want to like Jeremy's got a nice, stable, healthy career and all that stuff. I'm working on my own career in CNC, and hopefully some kind of engineering position in my future one day. But
Yeah.
the only thing that'd be nice is at least be able to make some kind of money back on it.
Yeah.
I haven't done any kind of sponsorships, and the only thing that sucks, like, I really don't want to deal with the hassle of like incorporating anything like that. I think doing it as just a hobby is a lot more fun, but to have to like do a whole legitimizing of the income and stuff like that for it, it just seems like not worth the extra effort for whatever little that we might get back out of it. But I mean, we have invested in it. I mean, we paid Jeremy's friend for the artwork that we use for our podcast and everything like that. So it'd be nice to find some way to kind of make some of that money back. But as far as like trying to make it a full-time thing, I don't think so. I don't think I'd enjoy it, honestly. Like, I think I would actually really get tired of it trying to do something like this so full-time. You know, I see other podcasts that do things week in and week out, and usually they can afford to maybe, you know, throw a few to have somebody else do the editing and all that stuff. But since I'm doing this so many things, you know, myself, because I don't really have the means to be able to pay somebody else to do that much work, I only care about, you know, trying to get something back out of it myself, I guess. Otherwise, I enjoyed it just being a hobby. I really do. Just something that, because it's not easy to even commit to a schedule for this for us right now. Jeremy's a family man. I've got a change in schedule every few months, thanks to, you know, because I go to school that night. So just never know when we can actually do this. We're on a short break right now because of it's just going to be a busy time of year for Jeremy. So rather just, you know, take some time, let him take care of his things. And then, you know, hopefully after the holidays, well, we want to do one more episode before the end of the year. We want to kind of do our like initial first year roundup, you know, and just kind of go over things for the year, talk about ourselves and the podcast over the year, but also, you know, talk about, you know, the big things of new metal for the past year.
Yeah.
That's
I just want to make enough money to buy like a MacBook Pro and a studio. You know what I mean? Just put the money back into it, you know. But yeah, and then as far as what's up?
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm just grateful that I am somebody who kind of has the means to learn to do most of these things myself. You know, I've had to invest a few things, but I've been like, I have a laptop I use for this, but I was going to buy that laptop anyways. It didn't have to deal with this podcast. I was going to use it for my own music stuff anyways. It's just kind of, you know, multi-purpose that way.
Yeah, that's one of the nicest things about a podcast is it costs like very little money to do it. And I mean, unless you actually want to get like a full studio or whatever. But yeah, in terms of podcasts, obviously your podcast called Breathing New Life, right?
Yep. Spelled, yeah, Breathing New Life with new spelled NU, like, in new metal.
And then so there's that. But then are there any other? I always ask this at the end. But are there any other podcasts, movies, music, or music, especially music that like maybe people haven't really heard of, like smaller new metal bands that you want to or you want to plug or whatever? The podcast, movies, and TV shows don't necessarily have to be like related to music or new metal. Just something that you're into that you'd like to share.
Okay, well, let's see. I guess starting with some plugs here. If you listen to new metal, there are a good handful of other new metal podcasts out there if you want to get into it. The one that I really listened to and got into a lot was a podcast called Roach Coach. Coach is spelled with a K on that podcast, and what they do is every week or so they do an episode where they go over an album that people suggest to them that they go over and they decide whether or not it's actually like new metal or if it's new metal that somebody needs to listen to in order to understand what new metal is. And that is one of those podcasts where, because they're a little bit more critical of the subject, not as many people are as fans of that podcast, but I've listened to it, and you just kind of take some of the things they take with a grain of salt and just understand that it's their opinion, it's their decision. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to anybody, but I find them entertaining. They're actually pretty funny. They're a pretty funny group because like there's like three people on that podcast, and they're all part of a comedy improv troupe. So their comedy, those kinds of things come a lot more easily to them. So they have some funny bits and whatnot, and recurring bits and recurring characters on that they made out of that. It's not just people just sitting down and talking about music. I don't really listen to many other podcasts regarding music. Most of my podcasts I listen to are
It
actually
doesn't
about
have
gaming.
to be. It doesn't have to be music.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that.
Yeah, well, I'm
yeah.
just speaking
Yeah.
in general here, but
Yeah.
like I listen to a podcast. I'm a big gamer. I like retro gaming. I listened to a couple of podcasts about that. There's one called Retro Knots, and it's a podcast where every week they have a topic of a certain old video game topic, from pretty much any era that's at least 10 years old, I guess you could say. There's another one called Completely Unnecessary Podcast. One of the hosts is a guy named Pat Contry. He's a YouTuber called NES or Pat the NES Punk. And I'm a bit in, he did some YouTube bits with some other retro gaming podcasters that retro gaming YouTubers that I used to watch. The one that I'm big on, because I'm like a huge part of this community, there's a podcast for talking about PC gaming. It's called DL Gaming DL Gaming Podcast. And it's a lot of fun because it's a group of people that are like in their 30s or 40s getting around, and one or two of the members will be drunk and they're like politically incorrect, and they sit around and talk about games, but they go off topic, talk about things like sex and drinking and whatnot. It can be lewd and crude topics and conversations, but they're talking about gaming along the way. And I'm a member of their community, quote unquote. I'm on their Discord and whatnot. I am known as Burn Division on there, and I do have a Twitch channel and a Kick.com, the new streaming service like Twitch competitor, Burn Division Games, where I do stream gaming as well. I try to stream PC games. I don't really do any kind of retro gaming streams right now. Mainly is PC stuff. I play a lot of I used to play a lot of Doom, the original Doom games on PC. Those are my favorite games. Now I just play whatever. I don't have a particular type of game that I play. Not one of those. I'm a quote unquote variety streamer, I guess you could say, but I don't have a particular type. I put in a lot of hours on a game called Last Epoch, however you want to pronounce it. And it's a kind of like a modern Diablo style type RPG game. Very fun. I love that game. Otherwise, I play like other kind of like stupid little games. there's a big one called Vampire Survivors that started off a huge trend on of type of games, and those type of games I'm big into, so I play and stream those games. I don't know. That's really about it. Other than that, I've got the kick.com channel for this that I've been if anybody doesn't know, whatever, been streaming that while we've been doing this interview as well. So trying to get that up and going. And
Okay.
it's
How is
yeah,
that? How is the kick compared to like
I mean,
Twitch
it's brand
and
new.
YouTube?
It's brand new. It's basically just trying to be a Twitch competitor, but trying to do a little bit more payout for the streamers than what Twitch has done. That seems to be their philosophy. There's a streamer called Trainwreck that is like an advisor for this new streaming service. So he's trying to help them be more what's the word I'm looking for? More attractive, I guess, for streamers, so that they get more out of streaming there and get more payout versus what Twitch has done. But who knows how successful it's going to be? But I'm big on, competition is a good thing. So any other platform that can help compete with Twitch and make, it better for the streamers and hopefully the fans, obviously, as well, is a good thing for me and a good thing in my opinion.
Yeah. Is there a good amount of people on there? Like that's a big thing, is having enough people on the platform. And then also is on the App Store, like the iPhone store?
So there's no app yet, but I mean, you can easily watch on any mobile browser. It works on any mobile browser right now.
Okay.
The most I've seen is like this is one of the things that kind of disgusts me about the streaming platforms right now. It's just like one of the pool and hot tub type streamers where it's just half naked people in a pool sitting around talking, but they get like 9,000 views.
Wow, I don't even know if I've seen that.
I mean, on Kick, there's definitely people who get like thousands of viewers right now. And there's some streamers that do like slots and stuff like that, which I think is kind of stupid, but I want streaming to be about gaming or something a little bit more topical like that, and not just sitting around being half naked, I guess. It's kind of just devaluing the platform, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, we'll go out on that song, I guess. Is that cool with you guys, or?
Yeah, whatever works.
Or Jordan?
It's all good.
Yeah, definitely. I found it. I told you it existed.
Do you have anything more to say, Jordan?
Do I have anything more to say? No, I'm good.
All right. I'm pulling it up right now, so you guys can talk amongst yourselves until I get that up. But sometimes, as Jordan knows, it's kind of laggy.
Yeah, I see you're buffering kind of bad right now.
That's weird from your cell phone that you're buffering bad.
It's not from my cell phone. I'm just using my cell phone as a camera. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Streaming to your computer, then out. Yeah, that's going to slow it down a little bit.
Anyway, let's see if we can play this Linkin Park song. Is it coming out, Mikey?
Yeah.
Does it work?
There it is, baby. MySpace Live.
Is it MySpace Live? I can't see it.
I'm gonna have to share. Can you hear anything or no?
Nope.
No.
There we go. You're getting there.
Can you see it now?
No, it just says blank screen, man. We can just, we don't have to play it. Just
Can you see it or just hear it?
Just hear it.
Okay, I'll just play it.
I can see it a little bit.
What?
I can see it a little bit.
Oh, you can see it now? Okay.
It's laggy, just play the audio.
Fucking go, baby. I want to see you moshing, Jordan. You're right, dude. There it is John Davis and Linkin Park.
Let's go, y'all!
I'm so lucky.
It's all good. Just listen to it.
This is pretty badass.
So clear. Let's hear your voices on this. Come on. Wish I could find a way to disappear. That's more like it. All these songs they make no sense. I found this in ignorance. Nothing seems to go away over and over again. Everything you say I love. One step closer to the edge, and I'm about to break. I need a little bit, 'cause I'm one step. I'm about to break. Take me one step closer to the edge. I'm about to break. I need a little room to break. One step closer to the edge. I'm about to These are the places that I can feel. Torn from my body, my flesh and peace. Tearing this ride we can
He's not up there.
what we are. Jonathan Davis, ladies and gentlemen! Home alone, I cannot resist. Feeling the hate I have never missed. Please, someone give me a reason to cut off my face.
Get the fuck out!
Blood is a boring. Let's see everybody up, let's go! Blood is a boring and
Very good.
If that
The
won't get you
ending,
pumped up, I don't know what will.
The ending was like dubbed out. I don't know where that one came from, but
Yeah.
like it clipped over. But the corn, I love that bridge between both of them, like contrasting like back and forth. So, anyways, fun way to end it.
That's badass. Thanks for coming on, Tom, and stick around
Thank
after.
you guys. Yeah.
I'll,
Thank you guys for having me on. Just hope everything went smoothly enough for you guys for an episode.
Yeah, it
So,
did. Thanks for coming on, and
Tell us the story.
yeah, we'll talk with
Yeah.
you a little bit after too. So stay on. All right,
Right on,
thanks for
right on.
listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.